Hi, I'm Scot Ferrell. Welcome to another episode of What's Your Problem? Today's topic's going to be edgy, could be controversial, could be downright rude for a lot of people, but it's something that's got to get addressed. It's does gender confusion exist? Well, 100%, absolutely. Okay, so let's get this out of the way now. Now, before I answer this question, I want to give a little background on myself because this conversation needs to be had first. All right, so let's look at me. As a kid, I was molested. Male and female molested me. No, I did not tell my father. My father was a guy who would have handled the problem, which included jail time. So that was off the table. As a matter of fact, I didn't even tell my own brother till 2 years ago, and my own wife 4 years ago, I think. So it's something I've never told anybody. All right. When I was a kid, because I thought I'd been molested by a man, I just assumed that maybe I could be gay. Okay, that's easy enough. You can see behaviorally why I would make that segue. So I had some friends that were in that lifestyle, and I said, "What do y'all think? Am I gay or straight?" And they all started laughing. It's like, what's so funny? For one, I'm attractive, and they're like, "Just shut up. You're just being stupid." No. So they said, "Okay, let's do a experiment." All right, so we're out somewhere, and this really hot blonde walks in, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" They're like, "You're not gay." Why? Dude, all you talk about is this, and this, and you stay in trouble all the time. Okay, yeah, you probably got a point there. And it's funny because when I talk about topics like this, people like to go, "Is homophobic?" No, I'm not. I'm a pastor who's also a scientist who likes to find origins of things because I do behavior, right? And the guy who taught me to do this, understand this, the guy who taught me how to do everything I know how to do now behaviorally is gay. The man I love more than anything in this whole world, that I consider a father figure, a friend, a mentor, that, in every book I have to credit what he taught me, my Piagetian theories, all the things I know about psychology and behavior. My mentor that I was an assistant to for 3 years, and then he taught me after that, is gay. I love him dearly. See, I don't distinguish between who you decide to have sex with and whether I love you. You're my friend because I love you and you love me. Okay. I'm not talking about your behavioral lifestyle because I distinguish, just like 2 millimeters of skin does not make a friend or a foe for me. It's I'm just diagnosing, or diagnosing is not the thing where you diagnose yourself or you diagnose what's going on in your home. You diagram out behaviorally fact or fiction. Basically, it's a hypothesis. You make your hypothesis and go. So let's go back to the original question. Does gender confusion exist? Absolutely. But as a behavior person, my mentor taught me to look at things through the following lens: spiritual, from a soulish realm, and from a body standpoint, so biochemistry. If we look at it this way, because we as a human, we're the only ones that have a spirit, a soul, and a body. Animals are nephesh, or soul oriented, they have a soul and a body. We have all three. So if I'm going to look at the origin or what's going on in the world with a human, I have to look at it through three things. Now let's start with body and go back to the left. Okay, so let's go look at body. From a biochemical standpoint, are male and female different? 100%, right? Now, our overall structural things, as far as our anatomy, is very similar: heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, brain. But our reproductive part of our bodies, et cetera, and chromosomal makeup is different. Okay, so now I know that from a biological standpoint, there is a difference. And only, again, I don't care who likes to say this, only women currently can give birth, and only, you gotta have an egg and a seed. Egg, women, seed, male. All right. And so then you look at the biology and say, all right, what were you born with? What part were you born with? And keep in mind, as a consultant and a pastor, I deal with a lot of people in the trans community or in the drag community or the gay community, because they'll call me and go, "Can I talk to you?" Sure. I'm a listening voice. They've heard me on the radio here in the Atlanta area, or they know somebody that's spoken to me. Because I'll talk to anybody, right? Because people, again, people are people, not some label. I'm not going to label you, "Well, you're this, I can't talk." No, stop. It's craziness. There's only one race that's human. So if you fit in that category and you can speak to me, and I'm not Dr. Doolittle, so animals can't talk to me, but humans can. If you can talk to me, let's talk. Let's work this out. what I liked about school was Socratic method. Let's work this out, right? So I do my consulting my pastoring from a Socratic method. Well, I'm not going to treat you any differently if you come and talk to me, especially as a pastor. And I've had many people come and talk to me. So let's diagnose this. Let's look at biochemistry. Male's a male, you have a penis, and we learned this in kindergarten cop, right? And girls have a vagina. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie. But as a teacher, I've had a kid do that, and it gets very uncomfortable in the classroom setting. But that's true. Now, I've had people come and speak to me that were born with fully both or with none. Yes, people can be born with very little or nothing. Makes for a very difficult life. Were they confused? 100%. They didn't even know, why was I born this way? Okay, then we go back to the biochemistry and everything else. But, all right, so we've established the fact that women give birth, men don't. I realize that they're trying to make this happen, but we're going to go over why that's going to be a mistake. So just from a biochemical standpoint, if you're born female, can you feel like you were born in the wrong body? Or if you're born male, can you feel like you were born in the wrong body? Absolutely. Let's go over the soul. We've handled some of the biochemistry, so let's go over soul. Mind, will, emotions. Can you be confused about who you are? Absolutely. Why? Because now we've introduced feelings, not biochemistry. Now, biochemistry can have an effect on your feelings, and your hormones can, but now we're talking about just feeling. And I always ask people, are we having a factual conversation or a feeling conversation? Got to have a basis of where this conversation is going to be, and I have to have a baseline of what we're going to talk about. Well, today we got to talk about all three. All right, so now that we've established that you're born male or female, okay, can you feel like you were raised or born in the wrong body? 100%, okay, because that's a feeling. We're not going on what biologically I am, all right? Another conversation, right? So as we're diagramming this, let's look at this. I read a recent poll. 25%, now again, polls are, half of them are made up, so you never know who did it. 25% of the current generation has gender confusion of some sort. Okay, easy enough. Let's say right now, I'm gonna say that's all true, just for a baseline, right? All right. So that means 75% aren't, but 25% are. That's pretty high. That's extremely high considering if you look at the data, only 2% or less of the world population would identify as gay or lesbian or part of the alphabet. They keep adding letters to the alphabet, right? All right, so 2% of the population, human population, we have a little north of 8 billion people. Okay, let's keep those numbers as real for the sake of what we're discussing. Okay, so 25% of our current population is confused. All right, let's look at human programming now because we're talking about biochemistry and we're talking about feelings and soul. So how's our soul developed, our mind, will, and emotions? We are programmed as humans from 0 to 7. You can look this up on the internet and lots of gurus like to talk about it. Okay, so you can just type in human programming 0 to 7, it'll come up. And then I was raised through the Piagetian method of maturation schedules of 0 to 2, 3 to 5, 5 to 7 or 8, 8 to 13, 13 to 18 on how we mature as humans. But from 0 to 7, we're programmed. All right, so let's break this down. What happens if I have a dog and a cat, but I treat the cat like a dog and the dog like a cat? Will they eventually be a cat or a dog? The answer is no. All right, because their biochemistry and their physical makeup's different. I don't care how I feel about wanting to change them. All right, so let's look here. I've got all my parts as a boy, but I'm being made to think I'm a girl. Okay, got a lot of people in Hollywood raising their kids like that right now. Keeping in mind that the biochemistry of a male is still the biochemistry of the male. All right. But from 0 to 7, again, Hitler said it, Jesuit priests have said it, and a kindergarten teacher have all said it. Give me the boy, I'll show you the man. Give me somebody from 0 to 7, and I'll show you what the rest of their life is. Okay. So if I tell you, if you're a boy or a girl, let's say boy right now so we don't get confused. If you're a little boy, and at the age of 3, I tell you you're a girl, and then I treat you like you're a girl, and continue to treat you like you're a girl till you're old enough to make a distinctive, valuable decision on that, then what are you going to think you are? A girl, right? Behaviorally, you can teach people how to do this. However, if we look at this, let's say You're raising this little boy to be a girl. Okay, so that's a fact right now. That's what you're doing. Let's look at a behavioral situation of maturation schedule. What can a 3-year-old really distinguish? Can't talk about their bedtime, don't really get to choose what they wear, don't get to choose what they eat, can't drive, can't. Remember, concrete thinking ends about 12, 13 on a maturation schedule, and then abstract can start about 13, 14, and now it's been stunted probably 14, 15 with this current generation. To understand what your gender is, you have to be able to establish abstract thinking. Abstract thinking, when's it start again? There's a reason why they have bat and bat mitzvahs at 12 and 13, when you become an adult. So right now, a child at 3 is only going to parrot what that individual or whoever it is teaching them. All right, that can lead to a lot of confusion, right? Because my biochemistry is one thing, but from a feeling standpoint, you're telling me I'm another thing. And we wonder why people are confused. And then you've got an entire public school system that's telling kids there's something besides they're not. Now, let me give a caveat to this. When did I start questioning my sexuality or whatever it was? And why did I do it? Well, I'd been molested by a male, so I just assumed that I could probably be a certain way, right? All right. If you're an adult, 18 is what we establish as being an adult in this country and mostly around the world. You're an 18-year-old, you can choose whatever you want to choose. But when you're 3 and you can't choose your bedtime, the food you eat, or where you're going to go, what you're going to do, you don't really get to make any decisions, bath time, nothing. How in the world are you going to make an abstract decision at 3? Well, you can't. It's an impossibility. An adult, whoever's around you has to make these decisions for you, right? And if you go all the way through school and people are trying to influence you what they want out of you. See, this is child abuse because I'm telling you you're something you're not, and then I'm going to keep telling you you're something you're not, and then wonder why you're suicidal by the time you're a teenager. Well, that's craziness. And on top of it, I'm going to try to change your biochemistry. Here's what I always tell people, and I've worked with a lot of people over the years that were transitioning male to female, female to male, whatever it was. And I always have one thing I always say to them: medical doctor, quickly. Gotta keep this in mind. Your body, if you're born male, is made from a biochemical standpoint a certain way, and females are made a certain way. Okay, that's just anatomy. Just take a college course in anatomy. If you tamper with that, if you introduce something into that environment that's foreign, your body's going to try to fight it. Your body's going to try to do something to distract or change or kill or whatever you want to call it. You need a medical doctor who is schooled in side effects to handle that. Like someone who came to see me was born fully male and female. That's a catastrophic disaster if you don't go to a medical doctor to fix the hormonal exchange by the time you're 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. Because I know what biochemistry happened to me just being male. So imagine being both with 2 combating hormonal biochemical exchanges happening simultaneously. It's enough to drive you completely insane, right? So imagine being 3 and somebody giving you something that blocks your normal biochemical reaction to something. What can happen? Well, what couldn't happen would probably be the better thing. Your body's going to reject it and break down. Eventually, your body's going to reject whatever you're trying to do and break it down. Okay, so that's our biochemical. So what you're doing is you're playing with something we don't have any right to play with. Now, by the time you're a consenting adult and you know all the factors that are associated with this, and it's not baiting on the medical community wanting to make money on you, do what you got to do. It's your life. It's free world. Do what you got to do. But when we're doing it to little kids who cannot make that decision, remember, when do we get into abstract thinking? That's child abuse because they can't distinguish and you don't have a right to put that on them. If they want to do that by the time they're 18, that is their life. They can make that decision. Again, one race, human, and we all basically have the same anatomy other than hormonal exchange and chromosomal differences. So now that's biochemistry. Now you know that if you tamper with something that wasn't there originally and then you introduce something there, you're going to have problems down the road if it's not supposed to be there. Plain and simple. Ask any doctor. Emotionally, soul, mind, will, emotions. Now you know that from 0 to 7, somebody can manipulate you to think anything, right? 0 to 7, it's in, the program's there. I don't have time to go in all the human programming today. Just look it up on the internet. All right, so that's body, mind. Let's go to soul, or let's go to spirit. All right, humans have a spirit. If you've ever watched anyone pass, you see their spirit leave their body. Now, I'm a pastor. Where do you think I'm going with this? We're created beings. Hawking had to admit that we had a causal agent prior to his death. And most physicists now, atheist and or Christian, will admit that we have a causal agent, which meant that we were created outside of time and space. All right, I used to teach, one of my passion is quantum physics. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? And in my church, I teach the physics of the Bible. So I approach things differently because I used to be part of Satan's crew. If you've never seen my history or my testimony, you can watch it on YouTube. So now we introduce the spirit because we have a spirit, we're a spiritual being. All right, so let's look at confusion again. All right, if I don't realize I'm a created being, then my life is basically time plus space plus chance. Where if I'm a created being, it's time plus space plus reason. There's a reason I'm here. All right, let me figure out why I'm here, right? A lot of people always try to find the meaning of life, the reason here, why am I here, what's my purpose, whatever it is, whatever the workshop of the week is. All true though, because whether you think you've been created or you don't think you've been created, you want to know why you're here. All right, so let's throw all this into the blender then. If God made me, he made me for a reason because I got a table here, I got a camera, I got a phone, I got a light. These were all made with a specific reason in mind when the Creator made them. Why would I be any different? And look at the biochemistry of the human body. There's no way we weren't created. Bear that in mind as we go through this again. All right, so let's link it all together. All right, if I'm a created being, I'm made specifically for a reason, so I wasn't born the wrong gender. Now let's get to the soul. Could I feel like I was born the wrong gender? 100% all day long. Depends on factors. Again, I don't have enough time to go through all the reasons why somebody could turn out that way. And there's a laundry list of reasons, right? I used to have a radio show before I got sick. Again, if you don't know the whole story, you can watch the movie. They made a documentary about my life. But I started interviewing people that were either trans or gay or bi. And the great thing was I got heartfelt answers from people on what had happened to them, what they'd gone through in life. And to this day, I've never told anybody who I interviewed, and it's anybody's business. And I did it under, I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm interviewing you, and you can be completely honest. Because I was either going to do a book or something, and then I got sick. And that book about when living was then my priority. But why do you feel X? What happened to you? What was the origin of this? Because me, in the behavior world, I want to get to the origin of why someone does something. All right, so why are you confused? Okay, let's look why are you confused. Did someone suggest the confusion? Because confusion normally comes from competing ideals or competing norms or competing things that were taught to you. So now you're confused about something because you've taken in all this data and all this information, and now you're completely confused about what's going on. Okay. So now we've got, you're created for a reason. So, okay, X. That means you were born male or female for a reason. All you got to do is look down here, look down below the waist and you'll figure that out. Okay, so now I'm made this way. I don't feel like I was made that way. Okay, so let's look at biochemistry. If I change my biochemistry, I'm messing with a house of cards that they've not done one longitudinal study on what can happen for any of these surgeries or anything. I looked. I don't see any that weren't funded by people. Remember, scientific research is funded by somebody. And a lot of times they want that scientific research to match what they funded it for. All the research I do is independent. I just let the chips fall where they may when I do research. So if you're made for a reason, wouldn't you want to find out that reason before you do something? Then at the age of 18, if this is something you are bent on doing, again, it's your life. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You tell yourself how to live your life. Just make sure you've got all the facts before you do something, because if you want to read something or watch something that's heartbreaking, watch someone's transition story when they realized it was a mistake. Because remember, not all mistakes can be corrected. Once you go down a path in life, look at me, I was an alcoholic, a drug addict. I did a lot of abuse to my body, and thank goodness those mistakes got corrected supernaturally, because medical science told me there was nothing they could do. So when you turn your body over to medical science that's being funded by somebody who wants to make money, you've got to be really careful and think through what you want to do. And it can't be based on confusion. It's got to be based on facts. Always go with the facts. Joe Friday from Dragnet, just the facts, man. If you go with the facts, you can make an educated decision on what you're about to do. And this is what I talked about with everybody I was able to interview. And they said, yes, I weighed out the facts, but this is what I wanted. Okay. Then you made an educated, you took the facts based on everything. And these individuals went to countless doctors, talked to countless doctors, went through everything that could possibly happen. But based on the way they felt like they could live with the consequences if those consequences were true. Then that's an educated guess. It's no different than bodybuilders taking steroids or performance enhancing drugs or cyclists or whatever, because you're going medical science, got it. Now I can make you educated, and I'm okay with the consequences if they come, because this is how I feel. Done. But don't place that consequence on a child who cannot make the decision for themselves. At 18, you're free. You can do whatever you want. It's just like with drag shows. I used to have friends at the drag shows, but you had to be 18 to go. You had to be 18 to go. And I work with people that do drag because they want to talk to a pastor, right? It's all under the guise of secrecy. But I'm always like, a lot of them do it for money. All the ones that have ever come and talked to me, it was just for money, or whatever it was, because you can make pretty good. I didn't realize how much money you could make doing that if you're really good. Now, if you're terrible, you can't make any money, but that's good to everything. But that 18 line of being an adult is where you get to make that decision. Stop confusing kids, adults, because it's child abuse, because it's something you want, or it's agenda you want, or it's something you crave. Or I watched somebody the other day tell a child on YouTube that their penis was a birth defect. An adult, again, we don't know. It's like racism or anything else. You put a bunch of kids in a room and let them play. They don't mind about 2 millimeters. Don't matter. No, it's when we bring in our external influence on a child and make them feel something. If we just left kids alone, nobody cared. My best friend when I grew up, one was Native American, one was Japanese, and the other one was black. The girls I liked were black because the lady who raised me with love and joy was black. So why do you think I always dated black girls? Really? I mean, one of the girls I was in love with in high school was black. But the people in our town told us we couldn't date. Black and white told us we couldn't date because that was unacceptable. It's 2 millimeters. I'm like, y'all shut up. Same thing here. If you want to do something at the age of 18, knock yourself out. Stop confusing kids before they get to that line. Let him or her decide on their own that they do. Just like my mentor, I asked him, when did you decide that this was the lifestyle that you wanted? He'd already been married and had a daughter, lovely young lady. And he said, once I got divorced. Now, in college, I kind of thought, but once I got divorced, and I've got a friend of mine who lives in San Francisco that's married to a woman who's like my sister. I call her my bigger sister. I love her so much. Again, my love's based on friendship and love, not on 2 millimeters and who you have sex with, right? So same thing here. My conversation with this is based on medical research, it's based on behavioral research, and it's based on spiritual research. And a child cannot make that decision. If you're not going to let them go to bed when they want to, go to school when they want to, learn what they want to, drive when they want to, then why in the world would you want to tell them their gender is off if they do not have the cognitive abilities and the behavioral and maturation scheduled abilities to make those decisions? Okay. I know I went long on this one, but I could do a whole 2-day seminar on this, but here's my thoughts. This is how I diagram things. Hopefully this has helped you assimilate or go through some of the information. At least do the research. Do the medical research on why people do X and what the qualifications are and what the consequences could be. There are consequences to every action, whether good or bad. but you need to know what they are. Again, if you have any questions, go to my website, scotferrell.com. Don't send me an email. I don't read it. My staff just deletes it. I did this video today to give you something to think about, because since this is the hot topic of the week, I try to avoid stuff like this, but people kept bringing it up, so I had to address it. Again, once you're 18, do what you want to do. It's your life. It's your money. I'm not going to live your life for me, and I'm not going to expect you to live my life, right? So, but be informed. So scotferrell.com, SCOTFERRELL.com. Also, like and subscribe to this channel. I'm going to do hot button topics, so I'm not going to run from them. Somebody needs to talk about them from both sides, not right or left, but let's talk about spirit, soul, and body as a human and what goes into that. So you probably do know somebody that needs this video. Go ahead and send it to them. Let them, again, let people make their decisions based on their decisions and their research, not on your agenda of what you want their life to be, or your inadequacies or insecurities on how you want to relive your life through somebody else. Let people make their decisions based on their own research. And once they do that, they can be happy with their decisions, like I have in mine. All right. How did I become a Christian? Research. How did I decide how I was going to be whole, as my soul was going to be whole, mind, will, emotions? Research. How did I decide about my body? How do I eat? Research. Right? I research everything to the nth degree and then make a decision. Just my word of advice today: make your own decisions based on your research, and do the research and due diligence before you do anything. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back again on the next episode of What's Your Problem? Remember, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.